Hello again, folks. Hope you are ready for my day 2 of Woodstock 99. My experience being there. Again, I was 15 years old and got to experience Woodstock 99. Of course, y'all know about it from all the fires, well, the controversy of the fires and everything, and we'll get to what I believe was what started those fires. So day 1 was pretty awesome experience. Day 2 is probably the best experience of the 3 days. So day 2, we end up getting up early, probably around not really early, but around 11 or 12, just because I think the bands we wanted to see didn't start until later. So we go ahead and walk to the Mohawk Plaza, and just to mind you, I don't know why, I guess I really wanted to go all Woodstock out, but I did not take a shower from Friday night, and I ended up wearing pretty much the same clothes. I think I changed like my boxers, but I kept the shirt on was the same, the shorts were still the same, so the boxers I at least got that clean, but the shirt I ended up sleeping in that. Of course I put on deodorant and everything, but I did not change anything else other than that. Of course my socks do. Okay, but anyways, we ended up walking to the Mohawk Plaza so we could catch the buses again to go to Woodstock. And when we get there, I think the crowd was like double the times bigger than it was on Friday, just because of all the bands that were performing on Saturday were a lot more bigger than they were for Friday. And especially because of Limp Bizkit, Rage Against the Machine, and Metallica closing out the East stage that night. Everybody wanted to be there for that. So once we get over there, like I said, there's just a shit ton of people. One thing that I was noticing with the buses is that they were only leaving with like maybe 5 or 10 people, if that much, and that was it. And we were trying to figure out like what the hell was going on. Well, it was just because there were so many people that were literally trying to rush onto the buses. The bus drivers were like, dude, we're not gonna put up with this shit. So they only took a few people. Remember, there were some cops there, and a cop actually ended up getting on to the hood of one of the buses, just telling people, hey, calm down, you're going to get there, but if y'all are going to be pushing and rushing like this, we're not going to put up with it. So finally, everybody ended up, staying calm and eased back, and then they finally let us all on the bus. I remember on Friday when we were on the bus, we had to stand up because it was that packed. I think Saturday was the same thing. Like, we didn't care as long as we got there. So we got there, go through security, show them our wristbands and our ticket, let us through. We headed over to the East stage, and Kid Rock was performing. So we got to see the last half of his performance, which was pretty awesome. The only song I remember was Cowboy at the time. Well, the song that I know of at the time was Cowboy, besides Bob with the Bob, but I think he opened his set with that song. So we got to hear Cowboy, and then I think he played a couple more songs. He had Joe C, I think that was his name, the little dude. He came out on the stage like with the afro and had the American flag, saying it was like Little Jimmy, little nod to Jimi Hendrix. And they were just pretty much just jamming out on their last song, and I think Kid Rock said something like throw the bottles up on the stage, because he did a thing where he had a drumstick in each hand, so when he would point it in each direction, the drummer or the guitarist and the drummer would play a note. So it was like bah, 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 just going like that, and people were just like throwing water bottles at the stage, and that's all you saw was literally like waves of water bottles. It looked like the sea of bottles. And once he's done, I don't know who was performing after him, but he finally gets off the stage. We ended up walking back to where the food was at one of the hangars, so I think they were getting hungry, and I think even I was getting hungry at this point too. Like, same thing with the breakfast deal. Like, I just couldn't hold my food. I was just too damn nervous going back to Woodstock. So we walk over to the hangars, and it fucking stunk like shit and pee real bad. And when we're looking around, there were these three guys that were covered in blue. It looked like blue dye, but I'm pretty sure it was the blue chemicals that they have for the porta potties, and they were literally covered in it from head to toe. And I did take a picture, and again, I will show that at the end of the day 2 stuff. But yeah, it was pretty fucking disgusting. So I think that kind of made me lose my appetite to not eat, because I was like, dude, that's sick. The smell, I don't feel like eating. So as we were just walking around over the hangars, we were just looking at the stuff that they had there, and they had like a Jimi Hendrix tent where I think it had just stuff dedicated to him because of his performance that he did, well, his rendition of the Star Spangled Banner at 69. So they just wanted to show more of a tribute towards him. And also on Sunday night, there was going to be a Jimi Hendrix tribute. So they had that. There was a movie tent, which I believe they were just showing movies. So if you just wanted to get out of the heat and get in some shade, they were showing movies on a screen there. Everything was, mostly everything was free. They had computers there, so if you wanted to email, whatever, there was a long line for that. They had a line for the post office, which it was just mainly you just filling out a postcard and mailing it to whoever. I know they did have some like extreme sports stuff where like they had like a wall climbing. I think they had like a bike track, like a dirt, not like the the gas dirt bikes, but just like the BMX bikes where you could actually drive a bike ride on a track. Jesus, I'm tongue-tied, and it's also 5 o'clock in the morning, so excuse me. They had that, a wall climbing, if I already said that or not, but they had just some stuff like that just to keep you busy. Like if you were waiting for a certain band and you just wanted to have fun, they had stuff like that. And of course, they had the infamous, most famous body painting tent. And that had like probably, other than the band stages, that probably had the biggest crowd, because all the chicks were there, were getting their chest body painted, and they also had tattoos there, which I don't think I would have. I mean, I know I was 15, but still, just to get a tattoo at an event, I'm like, yeah, I'm good. But yeah, but the body painting tent was most definitely the most popular thing at Woodstock. So after a while, we actually ended up leaving Woodstock because the group, they were getting hot. And again, this was during a heat wave in upstate New York, triple digits, so that was pretty much unheard of. Even when we lived there as kids, I don't ever remember it getting that hot. It was just always like, it seemed like the perfect temperature no matter what. But that summer, go figure, got the biggest event of the year, excuse me, and there's a heat wave going on. So as we were leaving, part of the Woodstock wall, I remember, was already being torn apart. Like people were just doing the bottom of it, sneaking people in. So people were already getting in for free, whether they had a ticket or not. It didn't matter. They didn't have to show a wristband. They just were able to go in, because dude, there was like thousands and thousands of people. It would have been hard for anyone to be like, oh, where's your wristband at? Like, it wouldn't have mattered, just because how big that crowd was. So we ended up going back to the house, and I remember Barbara and the girlfriend, they didn't, actually the whole group didn't want to go back to Woodstock just because it was that hot. And dude, I'm 15 years old. I'm like, fuck that. I want to go back. So I remember calling up my dad. You're like, hey dad, let him know what's going on. And I was like, do you want to go to Woodstock? Like, I still want to see these bands. I still want to go to this. Barbara said that she'll like rip off her wristband, and all you got to do is show the ticket and the broken wristband, and you'll get one for free, a new wristband. He's like, hell yeah, I'll go. And I think during that time, from the Ford family, Chris, he ended up asking, our friend Chris, if he wanted to go, and he's like, fuck yeah, it's like, why not? Free concert. And so we ended up going back to Lucy's house, the Cologne's house, and because that's where we were staying. So we were waiting for Chris to show up, and then finally, I think like 15 minutes later after we get there, we hear like Chris just honking the hell out of his horn. He's just excited like crazy. So my dad and I are just laughing. And we ended up giving them the 2 tickets and the 2 broken wristbands and everything, and we're like, all right, let's go. So we ended up parking somewhere, riding a different bus, and it actually took us a little bit longer to get to Woodstock because we had to go out to Lake Delta, or Delta Lake, however you want to call it, and pick up people from there, and then from there back to the Woodstock site. And while we're on the bus driver, she was like this young woman on there, probably just easy money for her to drive a bus and drop off people. But there's a guy that was sitting in the back, and if you remember on the buses, you could usually see like that part of the driver. So he just kept on talking about her eyes and how she smiled and stuff like that, and we were all there just laughing, and my dad and Chris just catching up and stuff. On that bus ride, it was easy because everybody pretty much had their own seat. It wasn't as packed as it was as the Mohawk Plaza ride in that one. So on the way over, Chris was telling us how he had like a couple of beers. I think he had like the little mini shots of like tequila, some beef jerky, and like my dad and I are just like, crazy Chris. So once we actually get to Woodstock, I was able to get in because I already had my wristband, and my dad was like, oh yeah, mine broke, and they're like, all right, cool, here's your new one. But Chris, though, he couldn't go in because he had an open beverage, well, open alcohol. So he had to chug his beers real quick, and I don't think they found the tequila, and they didn't give a shit about the jerky. So we had to wait for Chris, and then finally, same thing, oh, mine broke too, whatever, they give him a wristband, and we're finally in. And I told my dad, all right, well, we're going to go ahead and head over to the East Stage, because that's where Limp Bizkit is going to be performing. And like, all right, that's cool, because Chris and my dad were wanting to see Metallica. Of course, I was too. So we get over to the East Stage, and Mini-Me, Fern Troyer, Mini-Me from Austin Powers to The Spy Who Shagged Me, which actually came out that year since it was the summer of '99. He announced Limp Bizkit on stage, and Limp Bizkit gets on stage, and I remember telling my dad about, well, my dad and Chris about mosh pits, like get prepared for mosh pits, like what's a mosh pit? And so once Limp Bizkit's performing, I'm like, that's a mosh pit. Just showing like how everyone's just in a circle, running around in a circle, just slamming into each other, and they're like, oh shit. I was like, yeah, that's a mosh pit, so just be wary of those and everything. So Limp Bizkit, they put on pretty much an amazing show. Seeing them for the first time. I remember the first time I heard of them was in '98. The $3 Bill Y'all album. And then, of course, Significant Other came out that year, too. So that was definitely, like, the year of Limp Bizkit. And they did a song called Get Up, but it's actually called Thieves. It's a Ministry song. But I remember during that one, he was just telling the crowd, like, when I say get up, y'all get the fuck up. And my dad's like, oh, you guys better get ready. It's like, well, we're ready, of course. So everyone was there. It's just all jumping up and down, moshing around, slamming into each other. And later on, when they performed Break Stuff, that's where people were tearing the Woodstock wall. Not the wall, but there was actually like a middle tower. That camera tower, the one that I showed you the picture of. I know it's right here. But that tower, they were actually tearing off the plywood from right there. So that's the middle tower right there. And then on the sides, like where the stage is, there was 2 little ones, and that's where the camera cranes were. So they had the 2 camera cranes, and then the middle tower, and then over on the distance was like the MTV stage, and there was a camera there though. But they were tearing the wood off the middle tower, and they weren't doing nothing, I think, to the little cranes because they were too small. There wasn't wood there though. But that's when people were doing the crowd surfing. And I think that's where Fred Durst's mic got cut off because nothing was happening. But also during Break Stuff, that's where I ended up getting elbowed in the nose, and I got a really bad nosebleed because everyone was all just jumping up and down. And I remember I could just feel something right here, and because I did have facial hair at the time when I was 15, I just remember just feeling it right here, and I just go like that. This is just blood, and people are like, "Oh shit!" Like this kid is bleeding. But with everyone was just throwing random stuff during Limp Bizkit after that song Break Stuff. I think like someone behind me like literally jumped up and grabbed a thing of toilet paper, because I just remember them just going like that, and just like right here I'm like just like thank you. So that helped me stop my nosebleed, luckily. But yeah, so it was during Break Stuff. There wasn't no riots or anything that everyone claims that Limp Bizkit started. All he said was, I remember asking the crowd like if they like boy bands or like NSYNC, and of course people booed. And he's like, "Oh, perfect! Like we're gonna play a song for you to get negative energy out or something like that." And so they performed Break Stuff, and he didn't instigate like, "Oh, tear down walls" or do this or that. He was just playing Break Stuff. Like if you're having like problems with your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, take out that negative energy, and this is it. That was it. And so when he was performing Nookie, I think at the end of the song he wanted to actually go on to a piece of plywood. Fred Durst was. And he was telling like the security to make a hole, like, "I want you guys to be down there because that's where I want to be." So he actually wanted to get on the piece of plywood and go to one of the little small tower cranes. And he's like, "Can I trust you guys out in the crowd?" And they're like, "Hell no." But like even the security was like, "No, don't do it." So they ended up, I think he ended up saying like, "All right, well, this song's for the ladies. I want to see all the ladies on the top of a shoulder of a guy. Like if you know him or not, get on top of their shoulder." So all the ladies, they got on the top of the shoulder of a guy, and he's there singing Faith, and he actually ends up getting on the plywood, but he's not crowd surfing out into the crowd. He's just there on the wood, just finishing out Faith. And so they end up their set with the song Faith, and that was it. So John S., he ends up getting back on the mic and telling the crowd, "Hey, calm down. We had a person get injured with the wood. Please try to return it to where you got it. Like, try to keep people safe and not hurt since someone already got hurt." So they made a little announcement about that. I remember years later seeing videos or interviews. They were saying how, like I said, how Limp Bizkit started the riots. Again, they didn't, because the riots didn't happen until Sunday night. So there's no way that Limp Bizkit started a riot. But they were all saying, yeah, Limp Bizkit took it too far. They're like, well, if they would have taken it too far, they would have had Limp Bizkit stop performing right after Break Stuff. Because like I said, that's when all the shit happened. Go to YouTube, Google Woodstock, or Google Limp Bizkit Break Stuff Woodstock 99, and you could see, watch that, and then watch the Nookie video, and you can just see how the crowd is. Or watch the full performance. But at least watch the Break Stuff part. Shit, even watch the Thieves cover. That every year I always share that video, because that moment is just something I'll never forget. Just when he was just telling, "Are you guys ready? When I say get up, you get the fuck up. Get the fuck up." And we're just there just jumping like crazy. So yeah, so John was just telling how people got hurt, or a person got hurt, just return the wood back. Up next is Rage Against the Machine. So that's another thing too. I mean, you just had Limp Bizkit come off with a performance like that, and then you have like an even harder band like Rage Against the Machine on right after. So they finally get on the stage. They were amazing to see as well, especially Tom Morello on guitar, just hearing those effects and everything, just how he plays, and just to see Rage Against the Machine in general. Just such an awesome, badass band. During them, there was a crowd surfer behind us that we had no idea that was going on, because normally someone would be like, "Hey, heads up," or something. But he actually slammed into my dad and I, and it knocked off our glasses. That were like, "Shit, our glasses came off," and people actually, they spread apart, and they got out like their lighters or whatever they could to help us look for our glasses. And lucky enough, we found our glasses, and they didn't get broken or anything. We're like, "Oh, thanks," like, "Oh yeah, no problem." But yeah, so we pretty much got our ass almost knocked out from a crowd surfer, got our glasses knocked off, but we're able to recover them, so that was pretty cool. The only thing with Rage Against the Machine was they ended their set with Killing in the Name. And I remember my dad and Chris kind of got upset because the bass player ended up lighting the American flag on fire at the end of the song. And there was like writing on the flag, like you could see it on the screens and everything. But they got mad, like, that's not right, you know, disgracing the flag. I'm like, they're just, it's Rage Against the Machine. It's like, I can't control it. So they got mad about that. But again, like I said, they were just an amazing band to see, and I'm glad I got to see them once, the original lineup and all that, especially during that time in '99. So after them was Metallica. I think someone else got on the stage and was announcing how there's a storm coming our way. So if we see any lightning, to like take cover, leave the stage if it gets real bad. And then, of course, minutes and minutes later, Ecstasy of Gold is playing from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and there's Metallica finally. I remember we were doing our best with Rage Against the Machine, with their songs, getting closer, and same thing with Metallica, try to get as close as we can. And I think we literally got like at least like 30 yards from within the stage of Metallica. And we're like, all right, this is as close as we could get. Like, we can't get any further. So they were badass to see perform. I know Chris and my dad were happy. Of course, I was happy. It's fucking Metallica. During Turn the Page, I don't know why, but people just started throwing water bottles. Not like with Kid Rock. I mean, he wanted it to happen, but with Metallica, they just started throwing water bottles. And my dad, he ended up getting hit on the back of his shoulder with a full unopened water bottle, because all you could hear is this loud, like, pop, and then, son of a bitch. And then Chris and I, we just started laughing, and it was a full water bottle. My dad got pelted on the back of his shoulder, and we're like, hey, free water for us, you know, like, we were cool with that. Because I know during the middle camera tower, they were actually throwing out water bottles to the crowd, and they would just open them and just shake them around, because it was so fucking hot at night, all the humidity just from the people, and then with the storm supposed to be going on, it got real hot. So it was pretty cool with that. Let's see. So yeah, like, people were throwing the bottles during Turn the Page. I don't think anything happened to us other than our glasses getting foggy just because it was so humid. But Metallica, of course, they did their encores. Their first encore, they ended up performing Nothing Else Matters. And at that time, I was learning to play the guitar, and that was one of the songs I knew how to play. So when they started playing that, Chris yelled out on the top of his lungs, like, "There's the future Justin Bailey!" And I remember just being so embarrassed about it. I was like, Chris, I'm like, shut up. He's like, what, Justy? Because that's what he calls me, is Justy. What, Justy? He's like, I'm not going to know who you are. I'm like, yeah, that's true. You know, but just being 15, like, don't yell my name out. But that was cool. Actually, during Metallica, there was a lot of, like, blow-up dolls. I do have a picture of that. But there was, like, blow-up dolls, blow-up penises, blow-up beach balls. Just people just having a good time. But it was just funny to see, like, blow-up dolls and, like, blow-up dick and stuff like that. But, yeah, Metallica was just amazing to see perform. I think they played, like, 16 or 17 songs. Did 2 encores. Like, each encore had, like, 3 songs to it or something like that. I do remember in the crowd, there was this chick that wanted some water. And it might have been the same bottle that we had. And she said, hey, do you guys got water? Like, yeah, you know, here's a bottle. You know, what was left. And we thought that she was just going to take the whole thing. Like, we were cool with it. But she just ended up taking a sip and, like, gave it back to us. And we're like, yeah, never mind. So we just ended up just throwing the bottle down. I remember there was, like, a couple people that we talked to. And I think the chick said that her sister was from San Antonio. So my dad were like, oh, yeah, that's where we're from. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Small world. We're like, yeah, go figure. And just stuff like that. It was just cool to interact with people like that. Just knowing where they were from, or just helping them out with water or whatever. So anyways, we decided to leave, I think once they started their second encore, or after the first encore. Excuse me, because it was already getting late. So we ended up leaving, or started to, and they were starting to perform Enter Sandman. So where we were at, we just turned around, we watched them on one of the screens, and watch them perform Enter Sandman. All right, cool, cool, cool. So we were about to leave again, and they ended up performing, I think it was Battery was their last song. And so we stopped and kind of watched that. And then once that was it, we're like, all right, time to go. And so we're walking back, and we're all thirsty as hell because, like I said, from that water incident earlier. So we walk over to one of the food tents that's over there, and just for like a small glass of lemonade, they wanted like $8. And we're like, what the fuck? We're like, well, that's what I was thinking. Like, I didn't start cussing around my parents until later, and then now we all do. But that's what we were thinking. We're just like, what the fuck? Like $8 just for a small cup of lemonade. We're like, hell no. It's like, we'll just get something once we go back to the Mohawk Plaza. So my dad, he's like walking in front of Chris and I, and Chris and I, we're just laughing because we could tell my dad is trying to look for us. And there's times where he's even looking back, and he looks right at us, but doesn't, I guess, realize that it's us. So we let him walk in front of us some more, and then Chris and I, we get up behind him. We're like, Chris is like, hey, Bobby, you looking for us? He's like, ah, there you are. And we're just getting a kick out of it because it's like he was just ahead of us. So we finally get, I think it was to where the buses are to go wait for our bus. And we're just there waiting and waiting, and there's a couple people already there like, yeah, we're waiting for the same bus too. Like, we've been here for a while now. We're like, all right, cool. And you can see a couple buses already go by, and we're like, well, where the hell's our bus? We're like, come on. Well, we were there for a while. During that while that we were there, they had fireworks going off of the East Stage. I guess it was for Metallica, or just celebrating that day, the second day of the event. And finally, I think like a security guard came over and was like, what are y'all doing? We're like, we're waiting for the bus. And he's like, yeah, that bus stopped coming here like hours ago. So we're like, son of a bitch. So we ended up taking a different bus that took us to the Mohawk Plaza, because Rome's a small city. Well, at least that part of Rome is real small. So where originally we had parked, where Chris had parked, wasn't that far from the Mohawk Plaza. So we get to the Mohawk Plaza, and we went to Dunkin' Donuts, because I think Burger King was just packed out of its ass of people. So we went to Dunkin' Donuts, and they had like a deal for $5. We got like 2 donuts and like a soda for like $5. And so we went there, and Chris ended up dropping us off at Lucy's house. Since I was going back there was no point of going to their friend's house if they weren't going to go to Woodstock anymore. So he dropped us off. We told him thank you, and he just going to stop thanking us. And we're like, dude, it's no problem. Like, we love you, dude. Chris Ford is one of the coolest dudes. I could say he definitely got me into Aerosmith and stuff, though, and I was wishing that they would have performed there at Woodstock. So I remember that night, my dad and I, we were talking about, well, before getting home super late, because it was like 3 or 4 in the morning by the time we got home, because of Metallica playing late, and then also us waiting for a bus that didn't exist and all that shit. We were talking about going to see Willie Nelson perform, because he was opening Sunday on the East Stage. But since it was already like 3 or 4 in the morning, we're like, shh, that ain't gonna happen. And I told my dad, that's fine, let's try to get some sleep. So the bands that actually performed on Saturday, I'll do the West Stage and the East Stage. On the West Stage, they had Guster, the Bruce Hornsby Group, Everclear, Collective Soul, Los Lobos, Mickey Hart, Planet Drum, and then the Chemical Brothers closed out the West Stage. Now, out of there, I would have loved to have seen Everclear. Collective Soul, only liked a couple of their songs. But actually, with Collective Soul, I don't think they performed. I actually think they switched spots with Ice Cube, because on Sunday, you'll find out why, but Collective Soul actually performed on Sunday. So the Saturday bands on the East Stage were the Tragically Hip, Kid Rock, which I saw, Wyclef Jean, or John, however the fuck you say his last name, Counting Crows, Dave Matthews Band, Alanis Morissette, Limp Bizkit, Rage Against the Machine, and then Metallica. And I remember during Limp Bizkit, he was kind of getting pissed off because they're, I guess, wanted him to mellow out the crowd, and he was all saying, well, that's what Alanis Morissette just had you guys do. It's like, we're here to fuck you guys up. we're here to rock. So let's see, with my Woodstock pictures, these are pretty much the only pictures I have left. My day 3 pictures are those negatives. I can't find that film, what I did with that. And like I said, that's probably in my photo book. That's in that lost crate from Germany, which sucks. But I still got some good pictures though. Some of the Woodstock wall right there. So that's part of the mural that is all painted. And there you could see where that was part of the wall that people were sneaking into. And if you don't believe me, there's the people sneaking in right there. So it was pretty cool just having stuff like that. There's Kid Rock right there. Recognize him with that red hat that he wears. And then if you look closely at the stage, those specks, that's actually water bottles, and you can see him with the drumsticks in each of his hand. That's where he was pointing at each guitarist, and the drummer would play a beat, and it just went faster and faster, and just more bottles were just being thrown at the stage. And then here, the infamous Blue Man Group, those were the guys that were covered in the stuff from the porta potty. So it's, yeah, right over there by the hangers. And of course I had to, yeah, look at that, at the trash right there. I don't know. You ever just see that shit just like already like overflowing? Like I said, just from smelling them, the trash, the bathrooms, who knows what else, it just fucking stunk. Like I just lost my appetite. That was some of the people that were just throwing them up from like a sheet or whatever. I think that was during Limp Bizkit, because I remember whoever got off, I remember one of the people, they're like, all right, you're next, and they pointed right at me. I was like, nah, I'm good. It's like, no thanks. So that's part of whatever, mosh pit, Limp Bizkit probably, or something. Just we actually ended up walking, I can't believe I didn't say this earlier, we wanted to get, as we were trying to get closer to the stage, we actually ended up running through a couple mosh pits. And I remember telling my dad, I'm like, are you nuts? Are you crazy? He's like, hey, if we want to get close to the stage or make some sacrifices. Like, he didn't say it like that, but still though. So like, he's like, if we time it right, we could run through the mosh pit and make it to that other side. And so we actually ended up doing that a couple times. He's like, all right, you guys ready? It's like, oh God. He's like, all right, count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And we ended up running through some of the mosh pits just to get to the other side, to get as close as we could to see the bands and everything. And it worked. And the thing that sucks, that's during the crowd surfing stuff. I know it's so fucking hard to see, especially with the glare and everything though, but that had to have been during break stuff or something though. But like I said, I had more pictures, but they all got lost and everything. This is actually one of the nudie pics that I have, but it has the blow up doll, and of course the chick topless right there, trying to cover her if I can though. But yeah, it was just funny just seeing a blow up doll, and then you had a real chick right there. So it was just part of the shit they had going on. But and then that's my dad right here, and then that's Chris. And it was just 2 chicks that we just ended up talking to, and we're just like, hey, want to take a picture with us just to show that we were here at Woodstock? Like, yeah, sure, go for it. So it was just pretty cool. My dad, Chris, a couple of girls there at Woodstock getting their pictures. Yeah, because I think one of them wanted a lighter, and Chris ended up having a lighter, now that I see that now. And I'm like, yeah, take a picture for the lighter. And then that one sucks, but it's Metallica. You can kind of see Lars's drum set right there in the middle, but that's as close as we got to the stage. I said we got there at least 30 yards or so. And then that was actually from the first day though. That's my t-shirt that I wore every single day that I did not change out of. And the patches that I got, Korn, Two of Primus, Metallica, and Limp Bizkit. But yeah, I guess these videos are turning out to be 30-something minutes. I didn't realize it was that long to talk about. But that was day 2, and like I said, excuse me, day 2 was just fun because of Limp Bizkit, Rage Against the Machine, and Metallica. Limp Bizkit did not start No Riot. Like I said, that didn't happen until Sunday. during the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Actually, at the end of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. All Limp Bizkit did was just have people want their negative energy out, and they took it out on the camera tower by crowd surfing on the wood. That was it. There was nothing else. And then, like I said, you have a band like Rage Against the Machine right after, and then Metallica. It's like, what the fuck you all expect? So it was just like y'all's booking of the bands, but it worked. But that was day 2, and there's only one more day left. So I hope you guys are liking these videos. Like I said, it was just something I wanted to do, just to talk about it. So up next would be day number 3. So thank you for watching.